Hi everyone! One question that keeps coming up on my stream is how do you farm Duriel most efficiently? How do you get the mats? How do you do Varshan and Grigor? Which whispers should you do, etc. So I want to go over this in this video. So why do you want to do that? Well, Duriel drops the best loot in the game, including all of the Uber uniques. It's like the only source of those Uber uniques, and some other uniques also drop there that some builds really want. And in order to summon him, you need 2 shards and 2 of those eggs. Preferably you do this in a 4-man party so that you can multiply your materials by doing a rotation. So try to find people to do it with. Also, how do you find people? Well, some people just kind of like hang out here in front, or like use a trade chat in game in a town, or discords or something like that. So this is usually how that goes. But unfortunately, there is no like LFG tool in the game yet. Now, how do you farm those materials most efficiently? Let's start with Varshan for the eggs. So for this, you have to do whispers. One of the best types of whispers to do are always the seasonal whispers. So right now we have this these construct zones here with the arcane tremors, and they have these whispers here. And every 1.5 hours you get whispers here. They are extremely good, extremely fast, and you can turn in like 1.5 times or so the whisper caches. So you do this Herald of Malphas, you get 5 Grimfairs for a minute or so. And meanwhile, you can also start collecting these obelisks. You get 3 there, you kill a few of the constructs, you get another 3. That's 11. And then you can do the vault. And well, vaults are extremely efficient to farm anyway. So you just like pop whatever sigil you have in your inventory for the vault that you have to do. And you also get, some stones, glyph XP, etc. And it's also the best way to farm loot in general. So you want to do a lot of vaults, and whenever the whispers pop up, you want to do that vault. So this is by far the best, and every time these things pop up, I go there and do them. Even when I'm loading my alts, I relog on my main. I do these whispers here because they're just so good right now. And this also helps you, you get Malphas mats, you can do Malphas later, etc. So this is just extremely good. Every time they pop up, go do them, especially if you have multiple characters. And well, then you have also Helltide whispers. So sometimes you have these whispers here, and they can appear in Helltide areas. So whenever they are overlapping with Helltide, then I would also go there with all of my characters. So I'm talking about Helltide more in a second, but in general, you can do 2 things at once, and that is also very efficient. So whenever that happens, you should go do them. Then we also have world bosses. So whenever world bosses pop up and they have a whisper attached to them at least, if you kill them too often, you can't do that. But world bosses are usually pretty good, at least in world tier 4, because most of the time there's like, geared up people that kind of like one-shot the boss, or, at least it dies pretty fast most of the time. So this is also really good. And you can also get Lord Zir mats from world bosses, for example. So you also get 2 things at once that can be useful. Some other whispers I really like doing is the PvP whispers, but they only pop up like every 3 days or so. You have like the objective to kill the Khazra Abomination. This happens both in the southern and the northern PvP zone. And whenever this pops up, I go there with exactly 4 Grim Favors already completed. And like this, you kill the Khazra Abomination, you get to 9. Then you turn in, you get to like the next turn in and 2. And then you need 8 more. And then I go to the other PvP zone and do the same again. So I skip the little event. I just do the Khazra, I do the turn in, and that's it. However, that also depends a little bit on like how realistic is it for you to actually go there and survive in PvP and all that. You might not be able to actually finish the Khazra Abomination if there's other people. You might not be able to turn in, but I think they are really nice. They're really nice. They're really fast. It takes like 1 minute or so if you can just like destroy this Khazra and there's no one there to interrupt you. So they're really good as well. And then there's more whispers that are also relatively good that I like farming. Sometimes you can try to look at which dungeons are active as dungeon whispers. So sometimes they're like nightmare dungeons, for example, or they have like a codex power that you think you might need later. So you can always go check that and see if you get anything that you might need for your alt, or just to have it in a codex or something like that, or something that could be a nightmare dungeon like this one here, for example. So if you have one of these sigils lying around, it's definitely useful to maybe stock up on a few of those sigils so you can just like pop them. And again, you can do 2 things at once. You can farm glyph XP, you can farm good items on a hide here, and you can get a whisper completion meanwhile. Just doing the dungeon whispers is usually a pretty inefficient way of doing them, because the dungeon usually lasts not less than 3 minutes or so, even on a fast build. So 3 minutes for like 5 Grim Favors is just not really good. But combined as a nightmare dungeon, it's kind of nice. Yeah, and for the remaining open world whispers, the ones I like doing the most are harvest whispers. So usually you can go to one of these zones, and you see there's like a bunch of these objectives here, and there's a harvest. So whenever you see something like this here, You can, for example, go to this waypoint here. You can start clicking this visual here as well. So there's visuals here apparently. So they're usually like distributed along the zone. You could try to like make a path around the zone. Click these things. It's also pretty fast. And then I do stuff like the corpses here. There's a corpse. There's a corpse. Maybe there's an event. Sometimes the events don't pop up, but it can be nice to kind of like, you know, fill up the last Grim Favor you need, or just get those harvest like anima or whatever you're collecting. And as soon as you have that, you turn it in and you get like, you know, 5, 6, maybe 9 with the rituals. You can do like a cellar if you ride past it. And this can also be like, you know, a 3-minute thing or so until you do a full turn in. But then there's also like some of those other whispers that are just not really worth doing most of the time. So this includes all of those like, you know, 1 Grim Favor whispers. Like if you go here and then you go like, you know, grind your way to the left, you do the cellar, you do the corpse, you do the harvest. And at this point, for example, we just leave. I would not like necessarily ride over there. It's like, you know, some 20, 30 seconds traveling, and then you have to do the thing, and you get like 1 Grim Favor for it. It's just not that great. But sometimes they're like all really close, or they can like make a nice path. Like here again, you go to this waypoint, and then you do the corpse. Maybe there's a fast event. Depends on which event. You don't want to really do any of them. But yeah, sometimes you have really fast events in some of those spots. If you're like, you know, less than 30 seconds or so, like a Jar of Souls or like Defiled Ground or something like that. So some of them can be kind of nice. And then, for example, you could go down here, do maybe the other corpse, turn in the harvest, and leave. So that's kind of like how I do those whispers. I always try to go for the free ones and kind of like skip these, like, you know, slay 50 goatmen here in this corner. This can take quite a while, and you want to try to find those whispers that are actually efficient to do. But yeah, depending on how many Varsha materials you actually need, you want to go a bit more or less try hard with the whispers. So for example, because I'm currently leveling my next alt, I kind of just like log in on my 2 high level characters. I always do these robot whispers here. This takes like maximum 5 minutes, maybe with the vaults up to 10 minutes or so. And I get like, you know, 3 or 4 turn-ins like really, really quickly. And then I kind of just log off and come back 1.5 hours later and repeat basically. And then again, as I mentioned, here and there the world bosses, and here and there the Helltide plus whispers. Now, speaking of Helltide, Helltide is also a bit tricky to farm sometimes because there's a bit of RNG involved. There can be more or less people around you that clear enemies for you, so you can go and pick up cinders anyway. But let's assume you are mostly on your own and you don't have any whispers. So what do? Well, if you go to Helltide, there are those living steel chests, and they are pretty much the only thing you really care about there. And why do you want living steel chests? Well, that's for Grimoire. So when you open one of these chests, you get 5 of these living steels, and you can use them to summon 1 Grimoire. Sometimes you get lucky and you get 10 living steels, so you can get 2 Grimoires. And sometimes those Grimoires can double drop shards, so you can get like, you know, up to 4 like shards to summon Duriel if you get very lucky. But in general, you basically just go through the zone. You try to do like maybe some events, you get some obols as well. It's kind of easy to just farm some cinders there, but try to get to like the high density areas. So I have some screenshots here. This is taken from Chronix's season 3 compendium here. So there are these screenshots where you can find like these high density areas. So you see here mostly the top right and mostly the middle and mostly the bottom left here in Scotland, for example. And then similar in Dry Steps, Fracture Peaks, etc. There's these like kind of high density area that you want to check first, but you can't just farm them entirely. But most of the time I'm kind of like roaming around these areas as well myself, kind of naturally. But again, sometimes there are whispers and you want to go to other places and you want to try to combine these objectives. Maybe there's too many other people grinding these and there's not enough respawns. So, you know, your mileage may vary here. So you can definitely go out of these zones as well and try to farm cinders. But there's definitely a bit of a good benchmark here. And like this, you can farm cinders really quickly. So a good time to farm a Helltide chest on a fast character is around 6 minutes. So on like a blaster, you know, decked out speed farming build. So for example, here in the bar, like every class can do that basically, but 6 minutes is like the target time for a good chest for living steel, and then maybe up to 10 minutes or so is still somewhat decent. So if your build is not that fast or that powerful, but it's not that hard to like blast down Helltide monsters. It's usually worth it also, for example, to make like some adjustment to your build. For example, here I have Windstriker on my amulet. Okay, this is my main amulet right now, but just as an example, I have double mobility aspects here. Ghostwalker goes on a boost, and I have Windstriker here. And you can just have like some movement speed amulet with a wind striker on it, or like a slaughter aspect or something like that as a backup in your chest. And you don't really need to have like the perfect, you know, damage reduction and offensive mods on a Helltide farming amulet. So you just imprint it with some extra speed and you go. So this is a great tip. And similar for the Helltide, for the Whispers as well. You can do Helltide, you can do Whispers. All of these, just like swap your amulet, for example, if you don't have a unique amulet, but few builds do. And like this, you can just speed up and go at maximum movement speed all the time. About these living seal chests, in case you didn't know, they are now marked on the map, so you don't have to go and open like external websites anymore or something like that. Also, Helltide resets on the full hour every time, so there are no chest resets anymore like we used to have in the past. And there's a living seal chest and a mystery chest in every zone. So there's always 2 zones. In Kazakhstan, there's even 3 zones when there's Helltide. So each of them will always have one of each of those chests. But really, the only one you open is living steel. The loot is pretty terrible from these other chests, so it's not really worth opening any of these. If you really have to grind steals, then I would say you can also open some of those 75 cost chests. They're kind of okay. But for the most part, I would just go get the living steel chest and leave, and that's it. And that also pretty much sums it up. So TLDR, always go for the season whispers, always do a combination of nightmare dungeons with a whisper if you have a dungeon objective and you can run that. And always go for those, you know, combined whispers in the other zones. For example, Helltide overlap with whispers is really good, and harvest whispers, and you can combine with, you know, some of these other objectives here while completing the harvest. And you don't necessarily have to go and like do like every single whisper like that up here in the corner. And for Helltides, TLDR, well, you go for the living steel chest, just try to like find the high density areas, grind them out, click the chest, go to the other zone, click the chest, and then leave. And that's pretty much it. Like this, you're going to get a lot of materials relatively quickly, and then you can just go and farm Grigor and Varshan, convert those materials, and eventually have your mats for Duriel. So that's it for this video here. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope this helps you. Wish you good luck with the rest of Season 3, and I'll see you guys next time.